when he was strangled at that time in the boys' home. To him, it was thrilling.
A psychopath refers to someone who is characterized by a set of features, such as poor behavioral controls and the lack of empathy for others. As a result, the image of a psychopath is often of a cold and heartless person.
杀了5个人了，这一印象就是一个穷凶恶极的人，可是他又很斯文哦。
在新加坡为什么会有这样的事情发生？而且年纪轻轻只有19岁，这个引起整个社会的关注跟轰动。
在经过3个小时的紧张对峙后，警方在这里发现了3具尸体。
我是何英，过去在报馆做了42年的新闻工作者，主要是采访一些意外新闻、突发新闻跟警方的新闻。过后，我写了几本书，是以新加坡发生的严重罪案为主。8多年的时候，我采访这个意外新闻呢，也有10多20年了。这个是可以算是新加坡罪案史上，可以讲到现在为止都没有发生过的，所以我印象特别深。
Well, of course, such an unusual and brutal killing has got to be reported widely in the newspaper. I've read it in the newspaper, of course. I did not take good notice at that time until I was assigned to be his counsel.
Well, crime rate during those period was higher, I would say. There were a lot of house breaking. Armed robbery was not common in the 80s, but it was so in the 60s and 70s.
安德烈路位于新加坡中部，靠近麦里兹蓄水池周边。那里是一个优质洋房区，也是通往前电视台加利古山的其中一条路。
38年后的今天，我又回到安德烈路3尸案的现场。38年了，当然人事全非，而且这边有不少物质也换了新貌。
有些一定年龄的新加坡人路过安德烈路这栋双层洋房，或许心里会感到有些不舒服。原因就是在1983年7月23日，也是一个星期六早上，这里发生了一起3尸谋杀命案。
不要按，进去，进去。
主谋就是谢金华了。他19岁，他是一个国民服役人员，不过他的枪是从军营里面偷出来的。
你看咱们，
另外一个他的同伙是叫做饶国民，是一个马来西亚的示威党徒。
2名年轻抢匪在短时间内就制服了4个大人、1个小孩，其中包括男屋主和太太、1名补习老师、1名女佣，还有10岁的小女儿。
Robbery is a more difficult investigation because anyone could commit robbery. It could happen anywhere. Where the crime was committed, it's a very quiet residential area. And so suddenly something like this happens, everybody, of course, will panic.
我记得当时我跟几个同事来到现场，四周的这个道路已经封锁了，包括他们用这个警车 block 住这个路啊，就是封锁这个路。那么一大堆的这个警方人员，包括红车的，还有这个特工突击队啊，那么他们都以这个灯柱这边啊，几个灯柱来做掩护啊，而且警方利用这个对面的其中一栋洋楼啊，拿来做这个临时的行动指挥站。当时的气氛很紧张啊。
警方收到消息，抢匪手上有人质，史无前例派出了16位特工突击队的神枪手，将现场包围超过3个小时。
我们都被挡架在这个临时指挥中心的大概100公尺左右，我们也看不到里面的情况。
Sometimes culprit can even hide on the roof. And if he's armed, he can even fire from the top. So these are the precautions we have to take.
梁国民将在你被警方包围，你马上放下使用开投降。
And when there was no response, they decided to go into the premises. I saw all the 3 bodies. Quite gruesome.
一个是夫妇，还有女佣啊。那么3个人呢，都是反绑手，而且用那个短裤啊套住那个头啊。
And looking at the scene, I think it was done by someone who's an amateur. It's not a professional.
我们始终没有看到那3个尸体了。只是到最后看到黑箱车来把这个尸体载走这样。其实这个案件是发生在早上9点多了，警方包围的时候啊，2个强盗已经跑了。发生以后大概是第3天，我去这个联尸房啊，我就得到一个消息，说这个凶手还牵涉到另外一种案件。
When I heard that he has killed 2 other persons, I only wish I could do the investigation myself. It's something challenging. As far as I'm concerned, this guy could have done the murder out of fear or out of impulse. I suppose they describe him as a serial killer.
在外国来讲，如果连续在几天里面杀了超过2个人，就可以算是连环杀手。这个谢金华可以说是连环杀手。
Well, as a killer, a certain look. He did not come across to me as a prolific killer of 5 persons. He was not that big size, also a small guy.
才不过19岁的青年，入世也未深， 抢匪薛金华在短短1个月内就冷血夺走了5条人命。曾经在感化院待过2年的他，为什么会成为一个变态杀人魔？
薛静华，你在杀人的时候想什么？
我在杀他们3个人的时候，我想起了在少年感化院被人掐脖子的情景。一开始会觉得很难受，可是过后开始感到很刺激，好像电灯一样，一闪一闪的。
你想象你是雷波，是英雄？
我的情况跟英雄相差不了多少。
安德烈路3尸案的主谋叫薛金华，案发6天后就被逮捕。青年杀手的杀人动机是什么？新加坡人在高庭审讯得到了答案。
谢金华有在口供书里面跟警方讲，他很想学这个 Rainbow 啊，就是有一套西洋片里面的主角，杀很多警官，用炸弹来炸警署。那么他也想学林万林，就是60、70年代10大通缉犯之一啦。那么显示他个人的英雄主义啦。
其实很多的电影，大多数像 Rainbow 是正义嘛，做好事嘛，好像 Robin Hood 抢劫有钱人，帮助穷人，是好的。可是放在一个单纯的孩子的脑里，他就做坏的事情了。
当年的高庭审讯，各大媒体报章穷追不舍。薛金华也被冠名少年雷波，大家都很想知道他心中的仇恨是怎么开始萌芽的。
那你对丽丽说想要杀多20人，包括15名警察，那是真的吗？
没错，我脑海里浮现的是第一滴血影片中的英雄。
我就很奇怪了，杀了5个人了，这影像就是一个穷凶恶极的那个杀人王了。可是他又很斯文哦。
He was well-mannered and then cooperative. He was not close to his father because his father deserted the family. The mother having to work most of the hours of the day. Well, he was quite a naughty boy, it must be, because he committed theft. Without, parental guidance really at that time, well, it was for theft that he was sent to the boys' home.
其实，在70、80年代，刚好新加坡是在发展的时候。当时的父母只是想到如何养饱孩子，并没有注意孩子的心理问题，甚至于有些父母自身难保。
东西在哪里？
谢金华他是出生在一个问题家庭啊，比较破裂的家庭，在他的眼中，他的父母没有照顾他了，他的父亲甚至教他去偷东西啊！
偷了没有？有没有？东西在哪里？
根据薛金华哥哥的陈词，他认为薛金华会沦落到这种地步，父母和社会也是很大的因素。
他就好像一条船，在大海中这样没有目标、没有方向的在漂流。你可以想象他的心是不是？即使他没有心理疾病，他的精神都是会 恍惚不安的。我就是说，如果父母自己没有引导孩子孩子的空白的那个心灵就会被社会来引导他了。
The most significant event that had happened to him in the boys' home was that he thought that somebody had strangled him and he passed out.
小时候的创伤或许造就了性格上的疤痕，但这足以成为杀人的动机吗？
谢金华他有在法庭上说，他喜欢一个伴侣叫做丽丽的。我丽丽也有上庭说，他只是把她当作是普通的酒客。不过谢金华是有曾经在他前面炫耀，甚至跟他讲说他杀了人这样。
丽丽在高庭上作证时说，薛金华在洋房杀了3人之后，仿佛若无其事。他还驾了死者郑木峰的车，载丽丽和饶国明去买名牌货。后来，他也买了珠宝讨丽丽欢心，还带一批朋友到酒吧捧她的场。
他竟然还跟我说，之前在马林百列发生的谋杀案和他有关。
谢金华在庭上保持微笑，他的这个你很难看出他的心理的变化怎么样。
我说他为什么要胆子这么大了？就不当一回事这样，我就很奇怪了。那天呢，那对鸳鸯啊，本来是偷情的啦，他就抢他的钱，他就有坏习惯，就是怕你啊认得他，他就把他扔掉。
His behavior after the killing was atrocious. What he did was he put both bodies into the small boot of the car and went home as though nothing had happened. This is one of the traits that we thought fit him as a psychopath.
According to psychopathy checklist known as the PCLR, the characteristics of a psychopath includes the emotional features such as a lack of remorse or guilt, feeling little emotions, being insensitive to others, and they also tend to be more impulsive and irresponsible.
和薛金华接触过的人，或许看不出他性格上的变态，但都认同他非常渴望被外人重视。
他还跟我说，他打算多杀20个人，包括15名警察，因为他很讨厌警察。
也看得出他逞强好胜的心理。他既然敢跟酒吧女郎讲说他杀人，他就是要别人看他是英雄。他其实没有存心要谋杀，环境造成他不得不走这个冲动的方式。
安德烈路3尸案的案情显示，薛金华起初只是为了金钱而去打抢，后来他为什么会萌生杀人念头呢？ 摄制组邀请了心理专家蔡小婷和法政科代表林兴祥博士到重建的犯罪现场进行罪案分析。
There are three kinds of evidence that we mainly look for at a crime scene. So the first one will be biological evidence, for example, bloodstains, saliva, physical evidence, for example, the weapon here was a rifle. And we're also looking for trace evidence, particles from the soil, for example, or a hair that's actually present on the crime scene. This crime scene, particular evidence that's very important here would be this raffia string. So this raffia string is likely used as a strangulation tool to strangulate the victim. We actually see the victim's head actually being covered over while doing the strangulation. A very interesting angle if we consider it from the psychological point of view.
Yes. So research has shown that the psychology behind strangulation is often a show of power and coercive control, where the mind of the perpetrator is fixated on this idea that I have power over your life, I can end it whenever I want. Strangulation can also serve as a practical means as well to stop the witnesses or the victims from screaming, from shouting, to silence the witness.
薛金华的帮凶饶国明是破案的关键人物。假设当年他没有自首，法政和心理专家有没有办法凭着现场所找到的证据来还原犯罪真相呢？1983年所发生的一场3尸命案，打破了安德烈路长期以来的安宁。在一栋双层洋房内，男主人、女主人和女佣3人不幸遇害，而牵涉此案的有2名青年。如果当时没有证人，先进的法政科学和犯罪心理学能以什么方式来重建犯罪现场，并找出罪魁祸首呢？
There are various evidence that can tell us the identity of the suspect. We can possibly speculate. The first thing that we'd like to point out to would be this raffia string. While the raffia string was used as a murder tool to strangulate the victim, it's also possible that the culprit has left some of his skin cells on the surface of the raffia string. We could also possibly identify some kind of biological samples from this cloth that could also help us identify who the victim and the suspect as well. In the previous room where we actually see the blood stain, we could also extract DNA information from the blood droplet. So that could potentially give us some identity of the victim, as well as if the suspect is actually injured in the process.
法政科学相信，凡走过必留下痕迹，犯罪现场的所有证据都是破案线索。通过现代高度精密的法政科学，专家们能利用物理科学的角度，提供强而有力的证据。比如血溅形态分析，是法医学上的其中一个有效方法。
So we are going to measure the angle of this particular blood drop. Looking through this, the dimensions of the blood drop is 2 mm by 8 mm.
That's about 14 degrees.
So that will be 14 degrees from this particular point.
So you can see that the impact is somewhere over here.
从血迹的位置、面积的大小、飞溅的方向等，法医科学家能够判断受害者的遇害方式、凶手的位置，甚至所使用的凶器，从而还原犯罪现场。
through observing the crime scene and also his life in general, we can see that Sek Kim Hwa may display characteristics that are associated with psychopathy. What stands out particularly is actually the emotional facets, where Sek Kim Hwa shows a lack of remorse or guilt for his crimes, and also for the victims. In fact, Sek Kim Hwa need to seek out thrills through deviant behaviors. It's a characteristic of the lifestyle aspect of the psychopathy facets, where psychopaths tend to be more prone to boredom and also impulsive behaviors, and also they may have a greater need for stimulation.
薛金华的同伴饶国明一样是19岁，也来自不如意的家庭背景，但是两人的行为在命案现场却大有不同。
我已经杀了3个人，就算你放过他们2个，我们也是难逃死罪的。
我要放了这2个人，我已经报警了，你最好赶快跑。
快点开门！
跟谢金华相比之下，他的同伙饶国明就不同了。他悬崖勒马，在最后的时候救了2条命。他可以不杀人，那么你谢金华为什么要杀人呢？所以啊，一个人的良心在不在啊？他在一些临危的时候啊，是可以看得出。
他因为行为问题进了感化院，感化院里面又被欺负。他在抢劫的时候，他有枪，为什么他不要用枪？他要用勒，就是他自己本身曾经被勒的那个经历，所以他有报复心理。在我来看，他是有一些的精神分裂症。那他的犯罪心理呢，主要的原因是家庭结构残缺，父母没有给他很好的榜样，尤其是父亲，甚至于教导他犯罪，他都不认为犯罪是错的。
One example of a famous psychopath is Ted Bundy, an American serial killer. It was believed that Ted Bundy kidnapped, raped, and murdered more than 20 women over a 4-year period in the 1970s. What we knew about him is that he had an abusive grandfather. He was frequently bullied in school. He lacked interpersonal empathy and was unable to feel pity or remorse. He also claimed that it was sexually arousing for him to torture his victims, and he would kill his victims slowly to prolong his own sadistic pleasure. He is a good example to illustrate psychopathy.
提到变态杀手，新加坡在2001年所发生的买凶杀妻案更是轰动一时。当年34岁的吕伟天，为了得到一间公寓式祖屋和4岁女儿的抚养权，买凶杀了自己的妻子梁慧敏，而帮他杀妻的是一名年仅15岁的少年 Z。
还记得是我们看电视的时候，那个新闻讲安德烈勒的事，然后我的太太跟我讲，如果你代表安德烈勒哦，我跟你离婚。我知道他的想法就是，哎，你的丈夫不止自己买凶杀妻，叫那个15岁的小孩子来杀自己的老婆，这个是不可以接受的啦。
从15岁少年的自白中，我们认识了吕伟天操纵他人的个性。他威胁少年，知道干案细节不帮他行凶的话，就会把他也杀了。更令人不寒而栗的是，吕伟天在案发前为少年准备了一套杀死和自己结婚6年妻子的周详计划，完全不带任何夫妻情谊，非常冷血。
我第一次看到 Anthony 呢，就是在法庭，我看到他好像常常有那个笑。看到他是好像没有那个后悔还是紧张。
If you look at Anthony Le, he also showed no remorse in the murder of his wife, who has supported him for many years. Some other attributes we observe in Anthony Le include persistent lying, intimidations, and the use of charm in manipulating the youth for his own personal gain without getting his hands dirty. He also seemed to be manipulative, careless, as he taught the youth on the use of knives, slowly grooming them on how to commit the act of the murder, and even had practice sessions with his target on how to kill his wife.
还没被抓的时候 ，Anthony 呢在 funeral wake 哭。OK， 我这个是我的看法啊，他哭的原因就是给人家知道他是好的老公，很疼他的太太 ，and 能给警察知道这个不关于他的事。Everything originated from Anthony Le。他有目的来杀人，就是他要他的 insurance。那个15岁那个 Z， 不可以讲他没有罪，两个都有罪，但是很恐怖的就是 Anthony Le， 他 hatch 了这个 plan， 连还有讲是搞笑。
借刀杀人的吕伟天，犯罪的准备工作非常谨慎。由始至终，他一直都不承认自己教唆少年 Z 杀害他的妻子。然而，百密终有一疏，警方最终还是找到有力证据，证明了他与少年 Z 之间的对话，也坐实了他协助杀人的罪名。
Based on open source information, Sekinwa and Anthony Le demonstrated similar antisocial connections and personality. For example, both disregarded wrongdoings and appeared to show no remorse in their murders. In the case of Sekinwa, he boasted about his killings and claimed that it was thrilling for him to strangle and to be hanged. Nevertheless, we noted that there's some differences in the nature of the crimes committed by both of them.
"冷血杀手杀人不眨眼，丝毫没有忏悔之心。他们的精神病态是与生俱来的，还是后天造就的呢？如果有人及时引导，他们是否就不会走上这条不归路？安德烈路3尸命案事隔将近40年，至今依然令人震撼。当时的罪犯之一饶国明，根本没想过他的同伴薛金华竟然会把一场劫财计划演变成残酷的凶杀案。
饶国明是在谢金华落网以后的第3天自首的，那么他自首以后啊，就成为这个案件的关键证人了。
他已经走了。
饶国明他是四位党徒了，听说他有一个好朋友，姓刘的啊，那么也是个四位党徒。
小姐，请你告诉我婆婆、爸爸和妈妈，这是我有生以来第一次犯下的大错误，
看到薛金华杀害3条人命，饶国民感到非常内疚，他甚至想自我了断。因为家境贫苦，他也恳求补习老师邓淑霞送他一副棺材，死后把他的遗体埋在好友刘明雄的墓旁。当时受害人邓淑霞感受到饶国民真诚的悔过之心，也劝他要爱惜生命。
你毕竟还年轻，求求你不要自杀。
别啰嗦，记得我叫的事，快跑！我会去报警。
这个饶国民后来可能是良心发现，那么他就放了这个补习老师跟10岁的小妹妹逃生啊，而且留下自己的身份证，跟写下谢金华的地址，这样。一念天堂，一念地狱，要走正路或者是歪路，只是一步之差而已。就是踏出了那一步，自己想一想，这个局面就可能不同了。
后来，饶国民成为了控方提控薛金华的重要证人，而薛金华的律师对他被控的谋杀罪也不加以抗辩，则是尽力用其他的辩护切入点为薛金华减轻罪责。
The best course of action, as far as me being his defense counsel is concerned, was to use the psychiatric angle, meaning diminish responsibility. At that time, such a defense being formulated, his childhood, of course, came in.
你对丽丽说想要杀多20人，包括15名警察，那是真的吗？
没错，我脑海里浮现的是第一滴血影片中的英雄。
你为什么痛恨警察
？1981年，我从少年感化院获释。有一天，我回去以前做过工的咖啡店，碰巧店里入贼。警方不分青红皂白，拉我去问话，他们甚至还殴打我。
Well, he thought that killing was thrilling. Like he said that he experienced it when he was strangled at that time in the boys' home. To him, it was thrilling. Well, the prosecution was of the contention that no such incident happened, that it was his figment of imagination. The prosecution may deny it, but nevertheless, we made it a linchpin of our defense.
澳洲精神病专家约翰·艾拉德医生认为，父母的坏榜样和不良的社会环境是造成薛金华反社会个性的原因。而本地精神病专家黄业壮医生也指出，薛金华的智商高达113，比一般人还要高。他在短短3个星期杀害5个无辜的人，确实是反社会的行为，正常人恐怕是办不到的。
当我在研究谢金华的个案时候，我的心其实是在流泪。我一直在想，当初我如果能够认识他，是不是可以帮助他生命翻转？大多数进出监狱的，是因为他出来之后，他仍然是被气绝的，所以他就有自暴自弃。我就是这样的人啊，所以他又再继续犯罪，继续进监牢。
你对你的所作所为觉得后悔吗？
我帮他们这样不愉快的失望了，就好像把电灯关掉一样啊。
他们或许会想起你。
不会的，他们现在不必吃饭，不必东想西想， 不必烦恼去找钱，那不是很好吗？我越想越觉得我帮了他们。
对于谢金华，我同情的成分比较少，最多是3分同情。那么，我觉得他不把人命当作一回事，草菅人命。那么你要打抢来讲，你抢钱就好，那你何必杀人？我觉得这个是他非常不可以原谅的地方。
薛金华以残酷冷血的手法杀害3人，确实是为了避免让人认出。我宣判，薛金华的3项谋杀控状罪名成立，判以死刑。
Well, it has could be one of those unforgettable cases because of the very fact of one person killing 5. He was dubbed the Rambo of Singapore, or the Bad Rambo.
Let's recognize early signs of antisocial behaviors in youth or children so that we can intervene early. For example, does a child lie frequently? Does the child get into trouble in school or with the laws frequently? We may be even concerned if this child does not seem to be guilty after misbehaving. And when punishment does not change the child's behavior, let's provide help and support early. And this may actually prevent problematic behaviors and future involvement in violence.
“你可以通过 MeListen 应用程序、Spotify 或 Apple Podcast 收听更多新加坡的重大案件。